that the largest issue going on right now is the War Powers Act. The President of the United States unilaterally has deployed a massive military force of the Caribbean, Air Force B-1, B-52 bombers, an attack submarine, a carrier battle group, a Marine amphib unit, a lot of U.S. Army special operations. And it appears we have the capability now in place to invade or take down the Venezuelan armed forces. Look at face value, it's nonsense that these two individuals who were killed deliberately by strike represented a continuing threat to the United States. It's utter nonsense. So the question is, again, practically speaking, what is going to happen about it going forward? Nothing. The inquiry's over. The admiral has spoken. He said they represented a continuing threat. They could have flipped the boat, which obviously is nonsense. So I think that inquiry is over. But again, when we train a U.S. intelligence officer, we tell them, tell me about an enemy force's capabilities, not their intentions. So as I look at what the U.S. naval power in the Caribbean is up to, it looks as if we have the capability to conduct active combat operations to bring down Maduro in Venezuela, probably to get access to Venezuelan oil. This has nothing to do with the drug trade. The drug production of cocaine is all in Colombia. It's tripled in the last 10 years with no aerial eradication. Venezuela is a transit company.
Hi, my name is Suri Crowe, and you're watching the MeidasTouch Network. Well, there you have it from retired Army General Barry McCaffrey. Trump and Pete Hegseth's illegal war in the Caribbean has nothing to do with, in Hegseth's words, narco-terrorists at all, and everything to do with regime change and giving Trump's billionaire oil buddies access to Venezuela's rich oil reserves, the big oil companies like Shell, ExxonMobil, BP, British Petroleum, etc. It has to do with the bloodlust of an out-of-control, sloppy, and totally unqualified Secretary of Defense who posts psycho shit like this. Franklin the Turtle killing a bunch of other, turtles in boats and reposting psychopathic stuff like this to some MAGA podcaster named Andrew Colvett, who writes, every new attack aimed at Pete Hegseth makes me want another drug boat blown up and sent to the bottom of the ocean. And our esteemed class act of a Secretary of Defense posts, your wish is our command. Just sunk another narco boat. It's just, I don't even know what to say. This is after he ordered yet another deadly boat strike on the same day that Congress was meeting with the commander who directed that first lethal September boat strike that left 2 survivors, and new reporting from the New York Times claims that those 2 survivors were apparently waving like, hello. I don't know if it was for help or what. I imagine in the video that was shown to those Congress members behind closed doors before Admiral Bradley ordered the follow-up strike that killed them. They were on this blown up piece of boat waving, I would imagine, for help. It's just horrifying to think of that. I don't even know what to say. And our country blows them to smithereens in the middle of the ocean. As the retired Army General McCaffrey mentioned above, if Trump was really concerned about the war on drugs, he certainly would not have pardoned a convicted drug lord earlier this week, the former right-wing president of Honduras, Juan Orlando Hernandez, who Trump's own DOJ stated in court documents, quote, helped turn Honduras into one of the most dangerous countries in the world. Well, Trump has now pardoned him from a 45-year sentence that he didn't even serve 1 year of. So spare me that we're fighting, drugs. Please, what a lie. Meanwhile, our taxpayer-funded military appears to be committing extrajudicial murders on lowly drug runners in the Caribbean. The commander in charge of many of these operations is Navy Admiral Frank M. Bradley, who met behind closed doors with some members of the House and Senate on Thursday and allegedly told them that he indeed called the shots for that September 2nd mission and stood by the 2nd, 3rd, and 4th strikes on that Venezuelan boat. Admiral Bradley's justification to lawmakers was that those two remaining survivors presented some type of threat to the United States and that they appeared to be, quote, getting back into the fight. I mean, with what? A decimated, on fire boat?
We now know the video they released on social media was not the full video, because it turns out that 2 men survived that attack that you're seeing there, an attack that killed others. So, in what seems to be a blatant violation of the laws of war, they were struck again, the shipwrecked men, 3 more times. They ended up dying. Today, members of Congress were able to watch the full video, not just the first strike. Democratic Congressman Adam Smith, the ranking member of the Armed Services Committee, spoke to the New Republic about what he saw. Quote, Smith said the video shows 2 men sitting without shirts atop a portion of a capsized boat that was still above water. That portion, Smith said, could barely have fit 4 people. It looks like 2 classically shipwrecked people, Smith said, but in the briefing, lawmakers were told it was judged these 2 people were capable of returning to the fight, Smith added. He called it a highly questionable decision that these 2 people on that obviously incapacitated vessel were still in any kind of fight.
Democratic Congressman Jim Himes of Connecticut was also one of the members who met with Admiral Bradley in those closed-door meetings, and he also saw the entire video.
These sorts of videos in other contexts are not foreign to me. So, I'm not pearl clutching over something I haven't seen before. But what I saw in that video, and I'm hoping that the American people will have an opportunity to see it and judge for themselves, were 2 individuals whose boat had been incinerated and capsized, clinging for life without any visible means of survival or support. And then they were killed. It raises profound moral and ethical issues that anybody who watches this video should have. But it also points to something that is super clear in the laws of armed conflict and in the Pentagon's regulations around that, which is that once an individual has been placed out of any ability to conduct hostilities to attack you, the technical phrase is hors de combat. Once an individual can't attack you, you can't kill that individual. And there's a complicated argument made that, this individual might have been picked up by his buddies and, maybe they would have saved some cocaine. Maybe.
Is there evidence they were radioing, or is the radio something you're trying to get access to?
Well, I don't want to get specific here, but there was no radio. There were 2 individuals clinging to flotsam. That's what there was. There wasn't weaponry of any kind. There wasn't a radio. There was no means for them to communicate.
Again, let me remind you all that Trump never came to Congress to get authorization or approval for wartime acts on Venezuela, which by law he is required to do. Not that he gets any approval through Congress for anything, because Congress has completely abdicated all responsibility for anything. They just bow down and let him run all over them. And bootlegging MAGA Senator Tom Cotton, who is the chair of the Senate Intelligence Committee, is staunchly defending dear leader. Watch John Berman of CNN absolutely pants him.
They are terrorists. When did Congress pass the authorized use of force to attack them?
John, the reason why your question is not well-founded is like saying, would Barack Obama be okay droning an American citizen when he was president like he did to Anwar al-Awlaki over in the Middle East? Mm-hmm. These are totally different categories.
Senator, that's why I asked when Congress passed the authorized use of military force. There was an authorized use of military force against terrorists. I'm not saying what he did was legal or not, but that's what they based it on. In this case, when was the authorized use of military force to attack suspected drug dealers off the coast of Venezuela?
John, the president has inherent authority as the commander-in-chief under the Constitution to protect America using our armed forces against a foreign terrorist organization. Congress has passed laws that allows the president to designate foreign terrorist organizations. That's what he's done with these cartels in Venezuela, who are deeply intertwined with the illegitimate Maduro regime. The president is
they call them non-state actors. I will say the latest explanation, excuse me, Senator, the latest explanation from the administration is they are non-state actors.
No, Senator Cotton, he does not. And that is exactly why JAGs, Judge Advocate Generals, like the one you're about to hear from, are ringing the alarm bells, because what Trump is doing here with Psycho Pete at his side is fully dictatorial and lawless.
How could you justify that, knowing that once an individual is shipwrecked, they are essentially out of combat? But again, this all goes back to the most troubling aspect of that statement by the White House press secretary, which is this idea that President Trump can merely designate a narco group as a foreign terrorist organization, and somehow that authorizes the use of deadly combat power as a measure of first resort, shifting from a law enforcement to a wartime paradigm. That's a chilling assertion of authority. Why are we even treating this as a war? That should be the first question that the committee should be asking, not just of the admiral, but of the administration.
Here's former President Obama's national security advisor, Ben Rhodes.
They can spin whatever they want. There's a very established fact of a video that shows what happened. And you can't spin the existence of a video. And by the way, these types of strikes are very well documented. I'm sure there's a paper trail. I'm sure there's communications. I'm sure there's perhaps even multiple videos for this kind of thing. And the reality is, to echo something the Admiral said, like, look, this is the definition of why they have laws of war, so that people who are in duress, people who are wounded, people who can pose literally no threat whatsoever. I mean, there's no spin that can describe how people hanging on to a burning boat posed a threat to U.S. military forces whatsoever. That's physically impossible, right? And so for them to spin this, I don't know. They can talk all they want about the drugs that are on the boat, if that's the case, but that doesn't justify taking this strike against people that were clearly in duress. This is why we have those laws. Frankly, we have them in part because of humanitarian purposes, in part because we want our own troops, when they're in harm's way, to have the capacity to surrender without being killed while they're trying to do so. And also, they've yet to describe a legal basis for the entire operation. And I want to say one more thing about that. If we accept the premise that Donald Trump can decide to kill people hundreds of miles away from the United States, even if there are drugs on those boats, and they're not providing a lot of evidence to back that up, even if there are, because somehow those drugs might reach the United States and might pose a threat to us, imagine how much that opens up the aperture for who he could kill and take military force against, based on the presumption that somehow they might someday pose a threat because the drugs might sometime get here, right? I think we're in very dangerous territory. And this is a time where, Congress needs to reassert itself in the war powers, because right now Donald Trump is doing something that I can't think of any precedent for.
Yes, he's exactly right. We have rules of war and engagement because we are supposed to be an honorable nation. But Trump and Hegseth do not give a fuck about the people who are serving our nation. That is obvious as we have Trump, using the National Guard's members as pawns. And, he's never served a day in his life. He's just putting these service members' lives on the line. He doesn't care for them. He doesn't care. He's a 5-time fat fuck draft dodger. Pardon me for getting salty, but it infuriates me. I come from a family, my father was a Navy flight surgeon. Like I said, I live right here in military service central. I know more dead SEALs than I know live ones at this point. So the way he just pisses all over our service members infuriates me personally. I'll wrap up with this. A newly promoted 4-star admiral by the name of Alvin Halsey, who has current command of the Central American Corridor, is reportedly being forced out by Pete Hegseth, according to the Wall Street Journal. The early word was that he was just resigning early. But according to this exclusive reporting from the Wall Street Journal, a Rupert Murdoch publication, after only 1 year into his tenure, he's being forced out by Crazy Pete. Halsey, who has expertise in that corridor of the world of drug trafficking, had allegedly brought up concerns to Hegseth about the legality of these boat strikes. And Hegseth also believed that Admiral Halsey was the source of leaks from the DOD. So Halsey is stepping down on December 12th, in just about a week or so from when I'm recording this, taking early retirement, barely a year into his new command post as a 4-star admiral. That is crazy. And by the way, there's been quite a bit of reporting that Sneaky Pete is like obsessed with leaks, which, as we all know, is ironic, as the Inspector General's report just was released yesterday from when I'm recording this video, that he leaked like the most classified plans ever. He's putting on blast when our pilots are going out and striking, and he's worried about leaks. This man is so unqualified. He is a clown show. It infuriates me. I'm so salty right now. I'm sorry. And then here is another quote from that Wall Street Journal article. "You are either on the team or you're not," Hegseth reportedly told Halsey. "When you get an order, you move out fast and don't ask questions." So if that's the attitude that the current Secretary of Defense has at the Pentagon, imagine how other admirals are going to feel. You think that Admiral Bradley, who was just recently promoted to Southern Command to SOCOM, is going to tell lawmakers how it really is? I don't think so. He's probably concerned for his new job. He's seeing Admiral Halsey get pushed out, and he's probably like, I don't think I'm really going to tell how it is, because I need to hold on to my job. And, you know, when you put that many years into your military service, you're probably just, I mean, those are my thoughts. It's my opinion. And, you know, lastly, those drug boats in the Caribbean are trafficking cocaine, not fentanyl. And fentanyl doesn't come from Venezuela. It comes from Colombia, and it's trafficked through Mexico. All right. So if Trump and Hegseth were really worried about narco terrorists, they would be going after that pattern of drugs, which primarily impacts red states, West Virginia, Kentucky, Ohio. It's the fentanyl crisis that is killing people by the thousands and thousands and thousands. I mean, yeah, sure, cocaine is bad. Just ask Don Jr. But that is not the issue that is really the drug crisis of this country. It is fentanyl, and it's not coming from Venezuela. This is just a ruse for Trump's billionaire oil buddies to break into Venezuela's rich oil supplies. That's what it is. All right. So those are my thoughts. I know it's a lot, but anyway, remember to remain informed, but not overwhelmed. I know it's hard, but we must continue to call out the lawlessness of this administration. They are absolutely lawless. They are criminals. Every single one of them who is enabling this, from Trump to Stephen Miller to Russell Vought to Kristi Noem to Pete Hegseth, they're just one big massive crime syndicate lining their pockets, and we are going to take them down. Okay? I will see you back here soon.
Love this video? Support independent media and unlock exclusive content, ad-free videos, and custom emojis by becoming a paid member of our YouTube channel today. You can also gift memberships to others. Let's keep growing together.